Hello everyone, it is WD Comments, where I make the comments around here unless you want to. So let's begin talking about something that I really think needs to be spoken of regarding the talented group known as Tomorrow by Together. Now, after a full year of hearing 2021's K-pop comebacks like NCT's Favorite, Twice as Alcohol Free, and aespa Savage, all of which that have been hits in their own right, but I wanted to find time to break down a K-pop comeback era that dominated in a way that was unexpected and well received universally, namely that of the Chaos chapter Freeze by Tomorrow by Together. Now, if you clicked on this video, you probably are aware of the K-pop boy group from Hybe labels, but for the overview's sake, Tomorrow by Together is a 5-piece group curated and launched by Big Hit Entertainment in 2019, the same record company responsible for BTS. But this band has been steadily rising over the years, and they've been described by their label's website as, quote, a bright and youthful boy band aiming to become the next global breakthrough artist, end quote. While that may seem like PR propaganda, it's actually why, as of today, with only one American debut tour, 4 EPs, and 3 studio LPs, one of which that is in Japanese, has this group made its mark. And yes, I said that correctly. One debut tour with 6 stops in their first few months of existence with only 5 songs and no home advantage. You know, despite not being the next big hit carbon copy juggernaut group after BTS, Big Hit / Hybe labels, they hit something way better, which is a 5-piece group with no main category box to themselves. No main visual, no main rapper, no main vocal, giving the group a nice edge among a crowded industry. And since then, they've become the highest debut Korean boy group to enter the Billboard Top 200 albums with their debut project. First K-pop group to headline Wango Tango, the most viewed K-pop debut music video within 24 hours for a boy group at one time. With that said, I think it's important to understand how they've kicked off into an even higher gear and earned even more respect and accolades with this Chaos chapter project. I think once they released their debut studio LP in later 2019 after their debut EP, I feel like there was then some type of understanding of where this group is going versus where their predecessors had gone. And with 2020 really becoming a year that they really broke out into their own, I feel like Tomorrow by Together making this hint towards the Chaos Chapter Freeze album was definitely worth it to me. They just made a previous palette cleanse from their previous breakout era during that time in 2020 called Minisode Blue Hour. And they had already reached a new status as mainstays in the industry with a unique storytelling element, colorful and detailed visuals, and light and dark balanced concepts. And they did that very well, as seen by the praise from both fans and music critics after a dark previous era in the beginning half of 2020. And the next comeback hint came out of their 2020 Melon Music Award performance. You know, the only award show Tomorrow by Together seemed to take the most respectable and clever risks. It was rumored that a second attempt at the dark and moody concept was happening with this provided name Chaos versus their beginning chapter Dream. Of course, in the beginning of 2021, the teasers rolled in and they created an aesthetic that was much different from their previous comebacks and much more nuanced than expected theories. The war, frozen, bound tundra aesthetic in the world teasers gave us an idea of an essence of a colder edge, inherently telling us that this new concept isn't necessarily dark. However, there was a heightened intrigue that peaked with the era's concept trailer, which Consequence of Sound called sleek with impressive athleticism. Definitely felt different from anything we've seen from really any pop group at the time. Although I will mention that the slight controversial Burberry ad plagiarism in which the trailer was spawned, with stunts like fighting ice mounds and choreography, the director Charles Brixton only mentioned that it was inspired. He mentioned that there were noticeably other ideas that contributed to this trailer. Now, with that being in the clear, Tomorrow by Together dropped the Chaos Chapter Freeze on May 31st with their title track 0 × 1 = Love Song I Know I Love You featuring Sori, which was released to many praises from fans, critics, and even non-fans who welcomed a fresh sound. At the time, Tomorrow by Together was at the forefront of a budging pop punk type of aesthetic and sound. With that, it made the fans love it even more, especially with the pop punk, alt rock, and funk and disco sounds crafted on the record. It made the album a hit, and going so far as landing their first top 5 spot on the Billboard US Top 200 albums, the 4th #1 album in Korea and Japan consecutively, and top 20 in 9 countries. Not to mention the 89 universal acclaim score on Metacritic, which at the time of the recording of this video is the highest scored K-pop album ever. This success would add another feather in their cap. However, what I think is more interesting is the music itself. Personally, the album is easily one of my favorite of any artist in 2021. The melancholy of the ambient pop track Anti-Romantic after that youthful angst pop rock title song, only to move into a more glossy and swooning song like Magic, which happens to be sung in English, the candy-coated call and response from Ice Cream, Frost's trap influenced Edge, and Dear Sputnik's gaze into pop rock that almost sneaks itself into free-flying J-pop. What makes it brilliant is the foundation of youth effervescent nature that flows through the veins of this album while being honest about turmoil and fear. It's one of those K-pop albums that casually but not overbearingly makes coming of age feel genuinely okay in all of its emotions. Now, the album, make no mistake, isn't perfect. It's another feather in their cap that adds texture to the coming of age story arc built into their discography. There is a message besides it's gonna be okay. The painful metallic vocals in songs like I Know I Love You, Dear Sputnik, and Frost is nearly tangible in the way it comes across. While Anti-Romantic was surefire pop melancholy, it then cleanly transitions into hope and joy in songs like Magic and Ice Cream. But nonetheless, this is intentional and special, and that's where the brilliance lies, inside the journey of the album. Yes, it's universally accessible music, and you can chalk this up to pop music formula as an excuse, but you don't necessarily hear this among their peers as commonly, or among their pop Western contemporaries. This is the type of album that brings all those other projects' ideas to the table and focuses them. All those ideas you heard from their debut, they all come together that bring them one step closer to something even more remarkably their own. With One Dream, Tomorrow by Together is still being bright and youthful, with arguably being one thing even more interesting: universally truthful.